right, welcome to Toy Car Part 11, where I hope that we are done with this thing today. As long as this video doesn't go too long, I think we'll finish. So let's start by getting a few measurements on the wheel and the car body. So please open up your wheel and open up your car body. And there's 5 measurements that we need to ensure are correct before moving on. So first of all, we're going to use the measure tool and measure this flat surface. Don't do a ring or a line or anything. The flat surface on the back here to kind of the same corresponding circle inside here, and that should be 4 millimeters. That's one of 5 that we need to make. If that isn't correct, you either need to fix it or see me. Same will be true of all of these. Next one is we're going to measure from this inside flat surface to this outside flat surface. And that distance should be 0.25 millimeters. Now we're going to get an inside axle diameter measurement, and that should be 0.5 millimeters. And an outside measurement for this outside diameter, and that should be 1.5. Again, if any of those are not correct, please fix or have a conversation with your instructor about how we can fix those problems, because it won't fit otherwise. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close the wheel. We don't need it anymore for now. And we are going to have the car body next, and we need to measure between the wheel wells. So we're going to inspect, choose the flat surface of one wheel well on the inside and the flat surface of the other. Now, this should be, yours is going to show right now just inches probably, which doesn't help us because we were measuring the wheel in millimeters. So lucky for you, there's these secondary units, and you can come here and click on millimeters, and yours should be somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 point something. It hopefully is that exact. And again, if it's not, then we need to fix it. So let's go ahead and call that 17 because we need to make some room for the tire anyway. So it's okay that we're expanding in this a little bit. All right, we're going to close the car body so that we just have one dude open, or one untitled tab. All right, now we're going to start by doing what's called a bottom-up approach. We've talked about assembling a little bit. We're basically going to make an assembly, and we're going to create components within that assembly. So let's go ahead. We've got a new project here. Let's save this before we get going. Call it a wheel subassembly. You can look at that for the spelling. Okay. Now, in order for us to get parts in here that we've already built, we have to have it saved first. I don't know why that's true, but it is. So we're going to start. Now, notice we have wheel subassembly up here. And we're going to create a new component within this assembly. Okay. Let's go ahead and call this component axle this time. Okay. And click OK. Now, I want you to notice that now we've changed in our browser to having an assembly up here. Notice the blocks stacked, and then within that assembly, we now have a component. There will be more in just a moment. All right, so we're going to go ahead and create our axle, create a sketch. Let's do this on the right side, so this plane over here. So you should be looking at right. Undo if that's not the case. And we're going to start by making a long, skinny rectangle that's going to represent kind of the profile of the axle. So hook it up to that center point. Drag. Now, oh, we are in inches. Hit escape. I'm sorry. Hit escape. Make sure we don't have anything. I've already started a sketch. I kind of blew it. I'm going to undo that There we go. So make sure there's nothing in your timeline. I messed up already. Hopefully you saw what the problem was. Notice that my document settings are in inches. I need to set my document settings to millimeters. Okay, so I'm drawing in millimeters. All right, now I'm ready to get started. I made a whole other video where I messed that all up and had to start again. All right, sketch, right side view. Make sure you're looking at the right. Now we can get going. All right, hook up to there. All right, now I've got lots. I'm going to have to zoom way in. Okay, this is going to get a lot smaller. Okay, so I had a 17-inch gap. I want to add a couple millimeters to that to create about a millimeter space on each side for the tire bulbing out, so it gets some room. And then I also need to account for the actual width of the wheel, which was 4 millimeters, if you'll recall. So I need that to be 17 plus an extra 2 millimeters. Let's make it an extra 3 millimeters. Okay. Plus, and notice that this turns red when you, let me start that over again because it's being weird. Oh, come on now. Oh, I don't know what's happening. Okay, I'm going to hit escape and try that rectangle again. All right. So my length of this rectangle is going to be 17 plus. Now notice it turns red because what does 17 plus mean? The computer doesn't understand. So until it's a number it understands, it will be red. When it's black, it means, okay, that's an actual number. So 17 plus 3 plus the 4 on one side, that's the width of the wheel, plus the 4 on the other side. Yes, I know I could have added that to 8, but I'm showing you kind of how the computer will do that for you. All right. Tab will get us to the other side. So, and that was the diameter was 0.5. So we're going to go ahead and draw that whole profile. All right. Super skinny. Luckily, we can zoom in to that. And we've got that, what represents the overall axle. Now we need some ends on there that are going to kind of contain the wheel. So we're going to make a couple rectangles, just float them out in space over here. And those are going to be a 0.25 thickness, tab over to the other one, and a 1.5 diameter. Same thing over here. We're going to make another one that is 0.25, tab 1.5. Okay. Now we need to do some connection pieces. So we're going to create some points. Create point. We're going to do 5 of them that will hook up to midpoints. So this happened to me last time. It's so small, it doesn't want to go in there. All right, when this happens to you, like it's happening to me, you already kind of know the deal, right? Things aren't hooking up the way they're supposed to. Oh, now it is. If it wasn't, I could have just saved it, closed it, reopened it, and it's going to work fine. So, all right, I want to connect to the midpoint of that line when the little triangle pops up. I want to connect to the midpoint of this line. This one in the middle of this rectangle somewhere. I'm going to use this later. In the middle of that, on the top of that rectangle, in the middle of that line, and on the left side, middle of that line. So you know probably where we're going here. I am going to create a coincident constraint between this point and that point, and another coincident constraint between this point and that point. Everything should be black, and you should see basically what I'm looking at. Again, every once in a while, students get weirded out because your dimensions are not in the same place as mine, but dimensions don't matter. They're just showing you what size it is. It doesn't matter where they are. All right. I do want to make a little arc over here, kind of a little spherical end to my axle, just because it looks good. So we're going to mirror that. So let's make a line going up from this point here, and it has no matter how long it is, it don't matter because we're just using it as a mirror tool. All right, now over here on one end, we're going to make a arc for that sphere. So let's create arc, 3-point arc. We're going to go from one outside corner to the other and make kind of a whatever looks good to you. I think about like that looks good, okay, for whatever level of rounding you want. Now we also need to create a point right in the middle of that. So create point. And as you hover it, we'll find the midpoint of that segment right there. All right, I hit escape a few times, and I'm going to select this line, hold my control button down, and also select the point. I need two things selected, and I'm going to mirror those. Notice make sure it says you've selected two things because we need that point too. We're going to select this mirror line, and it shows up on the other side. Okay. Now those are blue because I can still adjust them. You can define it if you want to. And now I need a line all the way across because I'm going to revolve this, and I only can revolve half of it. So I'm going to create a line from this outside point on one side all the way over to this outside point on the other side. All right. Now we're going to choose 1/2 of this to revolve around that line that I just made. So let's finish sketch. And again, you want to tilt things so you can see them. And we're going to create a revolve. We're going to choose just half of this. I'll choose the top half. So we're only choosing either above or below that line that we just made. Okay. So you should have 5 selected profiles, and the axis we're going to choose is that axis right there. Okay. And cool, we have our axle. Let's save this before anything happens. Again, I like to save after I've made a sketch or after I've made an extrusion, just to make sure if things crash, I've got that stuff saved. Now this is called the wheel subassembly for a reason. We're going to start assembling things in here. So go ahead and open up the waffle over there. And now this time we're going to do something a little different. We're not going to open a part. We're going to drag it in here. So the wheel here, you're going to click and hold and drag that in. And watch what will happen. So you have now underneath this axle, we're creating kind of a subcomponent. We need to expand that and check it out. Within there is now the wheel. Now, before we start messing with this, I'll go ahead and kind of get it out of the way here. You can move this however you want to move it. But one thing that's important here is that the wheel, if you remember, we had all those little lug nuts on there, and we don't want those to be separate from it. We want them attached. So we're going to expand the wheel. So we expanded axle, we expanded wheel, okay? And I'll tell you about this little link thing in just a minute. And what I need to do is also expand bodies, okay? And you're going to do this again for the second wheel you put in. And you need to select the body. Come on now. Oh, I guess I got to hit OK that I put that in there. All right. Hit OK to place the wheel. Now we're going to click on body and all these bolts that were in there. Hold the control button down and we're going to select all of those. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, however many, if you might have made a different number of lug nuts than I did. And the body of the wheel, and we're going to create a rigid group out of that. Here's how to do that. we're going to go to your joints, your assemble here, get your drop down menu, and we're going to create a rigid group. Okay. It'll say it's constrained selected components. Yeah, we want that. So we're going to continue. Okay. And we're going to click OK. And what that did is it locked all those things together so that they're not going to move around on you. So let's go ahead and kind of collapse those. Keep axle 1 expanded. And we're going to drag one more wheel in for the other side. Okay. Let's go ahead and kind of move it around a little bit. And because it's going to be the other way, let's flip it. Grab this guy, flip it around, and let's move that over here. And again, we need to do that same thing after we place it and expand that, expand bodies, and take the body and all of the lug nuts, and again, create a rigid group. Yes, we want them constrained. Okay, and we've got them all together. We are now ready to start putting this thing together. So we're going to come up to joint. I'm going to get rid of the panel here. Okay, so joint, we want our motion to be rigid because we want this stuck to this. I know we could make it spin, but we're going to make the whole axle spin later. So make it a rigid joint. Go back to position. We're going to choose this little circle. Make sure it's on the inside and not on the outside. And then we're going to zoom in and we're going to choose that inside part of the axle. Click. Now, notice that the little nuts didn't come in. They will in just a minute once we click OK. Now, if your wheel was the other way, and it might have been, you have a flip button. So sometimes you have to do that because it went the wrong way. So just remember that you have that. And we're going to click OK. And notice that the lug nuts came along with it when we did that. Let's flip this dude around. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, joint. It should remember that I did a rigid joint. Position. Choose again that circle and this circle. And if it looks good and doesn't need to be flipped, flip OK. And there's our wheels. Now, let's go ahead and drag in a couple of tires. So go back to open up our waffle. I don't remember which tire. I'm going to do that one. I built 2 of them. All right, so I'm going to put in 2. Now, notice that it puts it, because I remember we used the sketch from the wheel, and it looks like it's in the same spot, but it's actually not. We still want to attach that. So I'm going to move this out of the way. Okay, and let's go ahead and drag in another one. Notice my lettering. If you did lettering, I have it on the wrong side right now. So this one's okay. I'm going to kind of drag it over here. But this component, my tire first one, I'm going to click on that and move it. I'm going to flip that guy around. Sometimes it's hard to see which way those little rotation dudes go. Oh, maybe I never did lettering on that one. I thought I did. Huh. I guess I didn't save the lettering, but at any rate, if you did, you want to make sure that shows up on the outside, so you're going to have to rotate them around. All right, so let's attach the tire. Now, we want to make sure that this kind of outside edge matches that outside edge. That's how it fits. So when you make your joint, we're going to make that outside edge and that outside edge match. And if it doesn't, we're going to have to flip it. Again, you might have to flip. Okay. One more time. Again, you might have to rotate it to make sure your lettering's on the outside. Let's make that joint again with that guy to that guy. And okay. All right, so we have our wheel sub-assembly. Let's save that. Make sure it's all together. And finally, we're going to start putting this dude together. All right, this video is getting a little long, so let's go ahead and take a screenshot of your wheel subassembly, save that, and then we'll talk about installing this on the car next time. See you then.